Okay, I got one of those Google reminders that it's been a year since I built my building. And so I thought, heck, I'll come out and do you a quick video for anybody interested in this kind of a single man job for the most part. Maybe encourage you if you decide you want to build a building. I'll show you the way I built mine. And let me first give you kind of an overview. I'll just do a turnaround, show you. You guess why I built my building. You probably get some indication that I had too many toys. So, okay, so first part of this job was the floor. So, of course, I had to level out and bring in dirt, and I'll show you that later on the outside. And then I did hire this concrete pourer. I hired somebody to pour the concrete for me. And he came back and did the traditional cuts in the concrete to, offset cracking and so forth. The building was set up to be a 26 by 26 building. If I had to do over, I'd cut it the same dimensions as lumber and saved me a lot of cuts, but it is what it is. So I made this differently. I used 6 by 6 post, and every corner is a 6 by 6 post. And you will notice that these posts are not sitting in dirt, and they're not sitting directly on the concrete. What I did was I bought Simpson brackets, and I'll give you an example of a close-up of one. Now, once I'd squared up, I used a hammer drill to bolt using concrete bolts each Simpson plate into the concrete. And then I set my post inside that Simpson bracket, and I used carriage bolts to shore it up. So my posts are actually sitting approximately an inch off of the floor, so there's never a problem with water or soil or anything coming in contact with those posts. And those are the Simpson drill pieces here. Here's carriage type bolts. Same thing is done up top with carriage bolts to secure. So if you go around my building, in every corner, in the midsections, there's a 6 by 6 post. And these 6 by 6 posts were 12 foot, so they were not light. I used a two-wheeler to move them, set them in place. To get them actually inside the Simpson brackets, I actually poured a little bit of motor oil on the bottom, and then used a sledgehammer to sort of tap them into place and stand them up so I could attach them. Then I came back and drilled the holes and used the carriage bolts. So once I had my 6 by 6s set, I was ready to start doing the cross sections. But notice here at the garage door, what I did was I did my measurement for the size of the garage door that I wanted. And it's a pretty big garage door because I needed to cover a casita. So I believe this was a 12-foot door. But anyway, it was a taller door, I know, because of the casita. But my point is, I had two 6 by 6s I put side by side here. And one of those 6 by 6s, they're both attached here together, support, but is used for the frame railing of my garage door. You can see that coming up here. But to join these at the top, my header, the 2 by 12s up there, sandwiched together to make a solid header that comes across those 6 by 6s. And you can see that holds that top railing and the springs and stuff attached for my garage door. So, very solid. And you can see carriage bolts in there too that sandwiches those pieces together. Now, once I had my 6 by 6s set, then I guess I was ready to do the walls. And what I did was I wanted shelving inside my building. So let me show you. You can see my 2x on the outside wall here. It joins the 6x6s. And I came back and did the same thing on the inside. See? And that gave me a way then to install shelving. So all around my garage here, shed, shack, whatever you want to call it, I was able to make shelving. And I bought those lights there off Amazon, and they just plug light to light. So I went around the entire building with that lighting. And I installed a header light. I had to build supports, of course, for my garage door. Now the trusses were an interesting learning experience for me. What I did was I drew a pattern, and you can still see remnants of that pattern a year later here on the floor. The floor became my method and means to duplicate 10 trusses. So I made my first one and then used that pattern to make sure my trusses align. And I had to build 10 of them. And I will be the first to admit this building is probably way overbuilt, because behind all those trusses are also those metal pieces. But I came back and cut me individual 2x pieces to join every section of that truss. And you can see the floor of my trusses are actually 2x6s. I know most people will build their entire truss out of 2x4s, but I use 2x6s. I also doubled up on my headers with 2x6s all around the building, and you'll notice they're inside and out, in and out. We get an extreme amount of wind and storms here, so. And you can see my floors that were installed here as support to brace this building up. And I came back also and installed bracing in my walls. You can see a brace from that corner to that corner. And I did that, of course, in every section. And so, very solid built building. I inset my door up against a 6x6 post here, as you can see, and used 2x to finish it out. To put the springs in, I had to cut me 2 pieces of rebar, and I used them to wind those springs. That's a job in itself. I did not install a automatic door opener, the locking piece, of course. And installing these is basically, you start at the bottom piece and you attach each piece one by one. You need to level up your sides, and you need to build supports, as I came back and built supports for my garage door. I did rent a piece of equipment to set the trusses. These were quite long and quite high. So once the trusses were all built, I lifted them into place so they could be toe-nailed onto the ends. To make that job easier, I actually climbed up top and marked and measured every spot so that it took the guesswork out of where those trusses had to be set. I used hurricane clips, you can see. Like I said, the building is probably way overbuilt, but it should stand the storms. Oh, there's my garage door. And you can see I house all my toys. Let me give you a shot on the front of the building. That was my garage door opening. I did build a lean-to onto this building. And when I originally put this lean-to up, I only used these 4x4 posts on the outside with bracing. I came back and put 6x6s in the center, primarily so that I could put my wife's benches. She wanted me to put benches here, put a swing in, and she wanted me to install this little pet gate, or fencing, I guess you'd call it, and put a pet door in. So, now to make sure that there's no water entering the building, at the floor level, I had them cut me flashing that I installed. You can see the bends in the flashing here. And this is actually flashed back behind the metal. And that bend sits over the concrete pad, and that's all around the building. And of course, I have no leaks at the floor level, although I did use treated lumber on the floor inside. Let me give you a sort of a big view. The largest piece of metal was right at, I believe, 18.3, 18.4. And those, you know, once I got them stood up and got a couple of screws in them, and it was a matter of just using a ladder to get up top. I'm not a builder. This was my first building. On this side over here, once I built it up, I was worried about water running off and washing it away, so I've been building this side up with cement. And I'm going to cover it here shortly with rock, just to build support for this side. Of course, then I ran electric out to the building. So just walk around and give you a view. Now, to prevent water from coming up at the roof line, at my ridge cap level, at the ridge cap, I bent each of those pieces back, probably 90 degrees, so that any water that would want to flush under there is going to be caught by that ridge cap and that bend in the metal. When I did my lean-to, I had them cut me a flashing piece. You can see the lip of that flashing on this outside. The other piece goes back behind that ivory, of course. So it's flashed. And that prevents any water from going in the building from this lean-to. So that's my lean-to section off the building. That's quite nice. We sit out here a lot of times. And sometimes we put the pets in there and keep them, let them stay outside. So anyway, it's been a year. Took me about, I say about 2 months of pretty steady work. I'm sure that some professional might have done a better job. But all my building is flashed up top. I have no leaks. I built me a custom sign, put up there. And hey, it's withstood some pretty rough weather. So I think it's going to outlive me. And certainly has served my purpose. You know, so anyway, maybe this is helpful for you. And fortunately for me, I built it before all the wood prices skyrocketed. And total cost of this building actually was equivalent or less maybe than, well, it would have been less than what they were quoting me to install one of those one-day metal buildings. And that included me actually being able to buy all my tools, and of course I got to keep the tools. So just labor. I set up out here and set my saws up out here and cut all my truss work and stuff here, and then installed it. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful. If you decide to take it on, you can do it. I like this method. I've talked to people that buried their posts that later rotted out and they've had to come back and shore them up. I don't think I'll ever have that problem now that all my posts sit above. And it's a very, very solid building. So, okay, hopefully you enjoy.